Let's have a look at a new bit of gear here. It's the SoloStove Campfire. The stove nestles inside the pot. The pot has a lid, and this is the stove. To operate the stove, take this part out, flip it over. Notice in here is where the wood's going to go to burn. The stove has holes in the ring around the outside. Air comes in here. There's a small place for air to get into the bottom there, and then the secondary burning occurs right here. The claim is it's a very efficient stove. It'll get very hot and boil this water quickly once it gets started. All right, let's build a fire in it. First, I'm going to go down to the pond behind me and grab some water. I'm going to grab a cup full of water, just enough to make a pot of tea or boil up a freeze-dried meal. Okay, be right back. All right, I'm back with a nice bit of water from the pond. You can see it's brown in color because it came right out of the pond. Let's start with some very fine twigs of pine. See if we can get them going. I'm going to pull this out while I light the fire. Makes it easier to get in there. Okay, break them up. Sure would love to have a piece of birch right about now. But at least I've got a lighter. Okay, in we go. All right, that's pine. I hope that's enough of that. Let's start breaking down some hardwood. They recommend thumb-sized pieces in the instructions. That's about what fits in there. From the standpoint of low impact, a stove this size is great. You don't need to cut big logs for firewood if all you want to do is cook, or maybe just have a little tiny bit of warmth for your hands. Even small pieces of hardwood are difficult to break up into pieces that small, that short. I've got experience with the larger SoloStoves, and initially they smoke a little bit. It just looks like a regular fire. but there are coals building up in there. And when that gets a good hot bed of coals, then the stove's going to start to work its magic. With the reburning holes that redirect hot air into the top of the fire, you get a much hotter fire and a much cleaner burn. And that should result in more efficient cooking. All right, we're beginning to get there. You can't see it on this side, but over here, yes, there you go. See the flame coming out of the holes? That's the reburning effect. Secondary burn. I've found with all these small stoves, it can be hard to get the initial coals going and get a hot fire. So I wind up blowing on them to increase the amount of airflow. In this case, I had to blow on it a bunch, and then the oak wasn't really quite lighting, so I grabbed some pine sticks to add some fast fuel to the fire. It did eventually build up the required coals and start burning hot. Okay, we can see we've got a really good fire going in there with the signature SoloStove secondary burning rings operating. That's the opening that you can use to put more wood in the fire if you wish. And be careful that you don't put your pot on so that these handles are over that opening, because fire does come out of that opening in addition to being a place to put wood in. We've got about 2 cups of pond water in there. It's already beginning to steam. That's a fairly hot fire. Let's take another look at what's going on here. This is the SoloStove Campfire. That's the cooking ring. Here's the fire going in here. You can see very clearly the secondary burning holes are generating some nice, efficient additional burning of the gases from that wood. And of course the whole thing works better when this is on. All right, let's find out how long it takes to boil 2 cups of water with the SoloStove Campfire. The SoloStove Campfire has a very small firebox, and it only burns very small twigs. As a result, it requires a lot of attention to keep it going. So you're trading off your time, your attention to the fire in exchange for a very low impact and ease of collecting firewood. It's a trade-off you'll have to decide if it's worth it to you. There you go, there's the steam. We have a boil. Look at that. 2 cups of water. What would you like? A nice freeze-dried meal? Cup of coffee? Cup of tea? Produced very quickly. So if we had a second pot, if we wanted to pour this one out and get another one going, got a lot of fire there. We'd be able to boil up a second pot in no time at all. Maybe I'll use this one to start my freeze-dried meal and use the next one to make a pot of tea. I like to carry these little silky saws. Small, fits in your pocket. Very sharp. Those ought to burn a bit longer. Funny little pile of Lilliputian wood, huh? Full boil. None of these little wood stoves are as fast as a jet boil. They're harder to light and they take longer to boil water. But if you get satisfaction out of burning wood, you feel like you don't want to carry fuel into the woods with you and you're willing to put in a little extra time, these little stoves are pretty cool. Alright, this one gets a thumbs up from me. Works as advertised. Nice, small, controllable flame. Very hot. Clearly capable of boiling a nice pot of water. Packs all down into a compact package.